everyone. We have Hanna Benn with
Hi.
us. Really excited to have her here. Son Lux we've collaborated a lot together, her and Son Lux, and I've also collaborated with her in a number of different ways. So it's kind of perfect that today's topic is collaboration, and we can talk a little bit about some of the stuff we've done together, as well as other collaborations that Hanna has been a part of, because you've done a lot of that actually, and a lot of sort of different types of collaborations and stuff like that, which is awesome. But to start, let's talk about how we know each other, which actually I'm trying to think about like when we first met, and I
don't know.
I don't know either.
I think so. I met Ryan via a FaceTime call, I think, and via Michael Kaufman.
Oh,
and,
through Michael.
It feels like too long of a story to actually explain. So, anyways, after I sang a couple pieces on a record, I think I showed up in New York, and you guys were playing at Rough Trade, maybe.
That's Oh, well, you sang with us at Rough Trade,
and I think I hadn't met you until that evening. Is that possible?
It's either
Otherwise,
that
I have
or
no idea.
was the time when you and D'Antoni and your dad showed up at a show in Indianapolis was either before or after that. I don't know.
That's like the second option. I just feel like I already knew you in both of these scenarios, so it's kind of confusing.
What does it mean to know someone in 2020 anyway?
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, we're all connected.
But we have since, just so people know, we've done so much since then. Hanna's been on tour with Son Lux, supporting us both with her own act as well as singing with us. I think that was probably in 2018. Yeah, 18. You did a bunch of dates in Europe and the US, and that was awesome.
That was super fun.
It's good times. And and we did a residency together at Mass Mocha in 2019. Called Aeon Ritual, and that was also a very collaborative kind of we'll get into that later, but so we've been working together in different capacities for several years now, and so why don't we actually just go ahead and start talking about some of the different projects we've done together, or that you've done with Son Lux, because sometimes Ryan's more involved in that communication side of things. I think the first thing you did was on Bones for You Don't Know Me.
Yeah, and I also sang background vocals on several other songs.
Yes. But I think
I don't remember the names.
I don't know exactly, because I think you were in Ryan was sort of running that ship, but from my impression of how that went down was that you, Michael Kaufman, who you said, who's both Son Lux's manager, your manager, and my manager. He introduced you to Ryan somehow, and that he there were a number of songs that he needed vocals on, that he had a pretty good roadmap or idea of what he wanted, and so that was more of an executing role. But then on You Don't Know Me, I'm pretty sure you wrote wrote something that we then kind of, anyway, you can tell how you remember it, because I don't really know.
I was a little bit timid about it, but in the studio I thought, I hear this other thing, and I'm just gonna give it an alternative option. And I was like, what do you think about this? Pretty worried about it. And Ryan was like, oh yeah, just do that. That's it. Do that. And it was very encouraging, and I kind of just went with it. And so that ended up changing the song. And you're right. The other pieces before that were sort of just executing and doing I need technically this. And Ryan told me what to sing, and if I heard any other harmonies, which I did, I still ended up creating.
Ended up adding some.
Yeah, adding
some
things that weren't there, but yeah.
Cool.
For You Don't Know Me was more involved.
Yeah. And that's so wild to think about. Like, I don't even remember what You Don't Know Me was like before you graced it with your, like, I don't even remember what it used to sound like. That like ending, the whole end, like basically there's a whole section at the end of the song that was like that Ryan built off of your sort of ideas. And so it was really like there was like some back and forth, and then like it like turned into like this whole thing that like then turned into a whole thing live as well when we played it.
That's true.
And that's even more full circle because you were able to do that with us on that very album cycle, and we turned it into a whole other thing.
Yeah. Such a trippy experience because and then having to re-sing it on tour with you guys like that. It's like, oh, I didn't like. It felt different in my body, which is cool. But I like it because it was so much bigger and super cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really love that part, and also playing it live and the way we did it with sort of Rafiq's guitar solo and stuff, turning in and then turning back into that theme was really fun, and I miss that. So yeah. But yeah, so that was kind of how, I guess, introduction to how you and Son Lux kind of work together. And I know that you also did a bunch of work on the alternate version of You Don't Know Me that came out on Stranger Forms. And I think that's pretty much generally in a lot of ways like how we've collaborated as well, like just like kind of sending files back and forth. And it does make me wish that it makes me wish that we could actually like work together in a studio on something at some point, you know what I mean? Because I feel like that is a whole different beast. And I think there are pros and cons to both. Like when you're in a room working with someone, there's so many little decisions, or you pick up on each other's like energy in different ways that like things can kind of like develop collectively way faster. But then there's also like the benefit of like when someone takes something home, I feel like and you get to sit with it and germinate on it and like kind of have that alone time process to come up with something that you like construct something more on your own. I don't know. Yeah,
I think I like a combination of both. I mean, I think with the piece that you sent me and that we collaborated on for your record, I definitely had to sit with it. And I think just playing around with it by myself was so important. And actually we were blessed to have that residency after, and we so instantly could take that song that we were working on and do more work with it. And I went back and kind of recorded vocals again and expanded it. But I think I personally want to, especially if it's like from the voice, I want to have a certain connection with it, and I really want to digest it instead of doing something real time in the studio.
Yeah, sometimes if it's real time, like you can feel, or at least I've been in the situation where I'm like maybe tracking drums for someone or something, and they're in the room, and it's like come up with something like now. Like,
immediately. Oh, like, no, I hope no one does that. Yeah, but it feels like that. Like it's intimidating, and kind of being in the right vocal mood, or warmed up, and
totally.
Yeah, but it's a great combination of both, because like once I'm done with my idea, and I'm ready to go somewhere else and do it, and I would prefer someone else to record me, because I'll let myself just re-record, and then hours go by, and I'm sure the first take was fine. Keep on doing it. But
it's good to have that. It's good to have that outside perspective. I can imagine, especially with voice, like that's such a. But at the same time, it's like you really need to be with someone that you trust as well. But just to back up a little bit, I think the song that we have been talking a little bit about from my record called Bird's Tongue that Hanna is featured on is what we've been talking about, where I sent her sort of like the instrumental for it. You sat with it for a while and then sent me some sort of rough recorded ideas back that were amazing. And I don't believe we like really changed it too much, but we were lucky enough that in early 2019, before I was like done with my record or whatever, we were both part of this Mass Mocha residency where we all got to kind of work on each other's music. So I brought that piece in to workshop, and we didn't have like a choir at our disposal at the time, so we kind of translated it to the ensemble that was assembled for that residency, and that was a really fun way to kind of figure, like, because if I remember correctly, I remember asking you, because the harmonies and stuff are so like intricate and insane on that, the way you did it for that song. I remember asking you kind of like how you did that, and I think you said that you sort of put together, like you improvised like a bunch of layers basically, right?
Yeah. It's just, it's not, I'm never thinking about it. Just, do one, do the other. Yeah. Just
build layer to layer and kind of
and then
respond to
deduce.
yourself.
Yeah. And then shape it. And everything's kind of instinct. I don't have many preconceived. I can hear it in my head and then I just try to execute it.
Yeah, I thought that was cool, and I remember when we were at Mass Mocha and we had to kind of get it like played by other folks. Like we had to figure out, we kind of had to like figure out what it was that you did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I couldn't do it, and you, it was amazing. You dissected everything, and I don't even think you had the stems.
I didn't have stems, and I think
had to like, yeah.
I remember like basically like in my hotel room, like after
so intense,
doing all the stuff we were doing for the residency, like kind of like listening to them, and then I'm like really bad with notation and stuff like that. I know how to do it and all that stuff, but like I think I'm similar to you in that way, that I'm very instinctual and I use my ear a lot more. So I remember I made like voice memos of like what, and it was really difficult to tell the parts apart because it's all your voice.
Yeah.
And
it was so cool.
I was just trying to figure out like which ones were which, and I came to, it wasn't totally right, but it was close enough for that. And I think being able to play that live, and then after that, I actually never really talked to you about like after that, when you went to record it, like when you approached it, how much did you like re-improvise, or was it kind of like based off of what we did? Or
it's based off of what we did, and I think I just was trying to execute it better, or just make sure it was better recordings. But you did amazing. Like, I mean, I appreciate that. No, I was like, I just remember feeling super guilty, and because I had to work on my piece, and I was I stayed up really late and I was notating something, and so when we congregated the next day, you were like, oh yeah, is it this and this? I was like, yeah, that's pretty much it. But it was like maybe like 16, 17 voices to go through or something, I don't know, and we ended up creating a composite that
for like less voices, 4 or 5, I can't remember.
Yeah, could do, and also Darian was doing 2 voices by singing and also playing violin, right. Or same thing with Emily. Yeah, everybody was kind of joint effort, which would be a great recording as well.
Totally, yeah.
I would love to hear that.
Yeah, I loved what you did on that track, and I hope to play it live with like ensembles and stuff in the future.
That was fun. Yeah, that'd be awesome. And it's funny, your ear, like being able to, one doesn't necessarily have to notate something, and oral music history, just passing stories is enough, and I'm saying this because you said I didn't do, it wasn't right, but I think it was right, because I think when people arrange a piece, like there's different ways to go about things. You're doing you're doing voice leading, and there's different ways depending on what instruments you have. There's different ways you need to rearrange it, and so you dissecting it with your ear and kind of figuring it out. I mean, there weren't any wrong notes in it, right? I'm just trying
it wasn't they were very kind. It wasn't verbatim, but it was definitely the idea was there. And
because I would be doing the same thing if I was trying to teach it to somebody else. I might have to rearrange it just because it would be easier to especially when you're improvising an idea and recording it. Sometimes you might be doing something a little bit more acrobatic in your voice on one line, when really I could have put that on two different voices and gave myself a break on a certain thing. And if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. Is that generally like how you like to work in terms of just like improvising layers and then kind of like contextualizing things after the fact? Or I guess you probably have used different approaches to different things, especially like writing for larger ensembles and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I also feel like I have that thing where nothing's ever finished. and I keep on rearranging the same thing for a different group, or I need to get over that. Move on.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of the sort of the ethos of nothing is ever finished rings true even when something is like finished, you know what I mean? Like even just the examples of things that we've done together, like with You Don't Know Me, like that song was finished when it came out, but like, you know, it's lived like different lives when it's been played live and all these things, and like the ideas that were collaborated on or created in collaboration, like the way they germinate and then kind of find, you know, different, I don't know. I just feel like I think it can be a healthy thing to think of things as never being totally finished, even if you like kind of put a pin in it at some point, like, you know, finish a recording and whatnot. But I think the ideas live on indefinitely afterwards. So
yeah. Like I had a piece that I wrote for chamber orchestra, and it ended up on my EP, and it is me singing all the parts of the orchestra, because I didn't have the funding or the money to produce that on a recording. So and that was a super fun experience, and so I have two different versions of that. And
which song was that, out of curiosity?
Divide. Sing Persist. That's the last movement of a piece of mine, Sankofa, that I premiered in maybe 2017.
Nice. So I just have like a few kind of questions that I have like jotted down, and I think let's pull one out and see.
Ooh,
First, another thing that I forgot to mention that it's maybe a little bit less of a collaboration and more just like a straight like. But anyway, I did a remix for one of your songs from the EP. Shoot.
A Guest House.
Guest House, that's right.
It took me a moment too. I was just
Guest House, which was really cool and a fun experience for me. But that is a little bit more like you sent me the file and then I just did my thing, and then I sent it back and you were like, cool.
Yeah, like, it's perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
But I guess here's a question. What are some things that you value about the collaborative process, and like what do you feel like you get out of collaboration that you might not be able to get necessarily out of solitary creative work?
I think it's a kind of simple because I want to say community. I mean, music in general for me, as a spiritual experience or my music practice, I really just want to connect. And I have mostly a choral background, and being lead or solo has been kind of hard for me, I just thrive, I think, because of that background. And I'm sure lots of people, orchestra or whatever you did when you were a kid. Yeah, it's just like that group effort to do something, and
Totally.
creating it together. So I think what I get most out of collaboration is just friendship, closeness, just
Totally.
Communicating with other people. It just is fun. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that answer, because it's I don't know, there's something about music that is just very like, for me, it never made that much sense to be like competitive about music. You know what I mean? It's like we're all kind of creating together. And I think especially like, you mentioning that you have a choral background, like just the experience of like singing in a room with that many people at the same time, like I feel like that's just like a something that you can't recreate and is really special. And I can relate to it in like, and actually like growing up, I think my background was classical percussion and stuff like that, and I played in orchestras and ensembles and stuff like that, and it was always something that I really enjoyed, just this feeling of like, wow, like there's all these people in a room together, like creating like this beautiful sound that you're all like working towards.
Yeah, I feel a similar feeling like after exercise, just endorphins, or just kind of releasing that energy, and you get super high from it.
Yeah.
Or you can.
Yeah, it like does something,
It's like, oh, I feel great. Yeah.
I'm part of something bigger than myself.
This rules. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's a simple answer.
Sorry?
That's a simple answer. I mean, I hope that's not a boring answer.
Not at all.
Like,
not
it's fun.
I love
community.
that answer.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's something that is important actually to just like kind of talk about, especially right now in COVID times. It's been obviously more difficult to get in rooms with people to work with, collaboratively in that way, and it's a lot more sort of file sharing and like communicating in different ways. Have you been able to, like in the past year or so, like been able to kind of find that type of sacred space for yourself?
Not as much, I'll be honest. But I have the same workload, and I'm thankful for that. But it is, more
in your own head.
It's more in my own head, and kind of just constant feedback with myself. But it, it's different.
It's difficult,
I think it has been on the other side of it. I think I said that my workload is the same, but I almost feel like there's more work happening, as my other friends are more encouraged to actually investigate, recording themselves too. I've had more,
That's cool.
Yeah, that's.
And is it stuff that like, because I know you're working on your own music, and is it mainly stuff that like you've been reaching out to people to collaborate on your stuff, or like?
Yeah.
Both, like a little bit of both, where people are like,
a little bit of both. And some of my girlfriends who are having to do the same kind of gigs as me, and having to actually do a studio setup at home, and now we're all singing together.
Yeah, that is kind of a nice silver lining, which I think I've noticed as well. And I've always relied on kind of live touring work and stuff in my life. but the past year I've worked a lot from home in the studio, and I think there's definitely truth to the fact that like we've all been forced to be able to create and capture ourselves and figure out what that means for ourselves, like in our own homes. And I think that there's something really beautiful about that. And obviously that's different than, say, I think like what we were talking about earlier is sort of like the sacred communal kind of experience of working on and creating music in the same space as other people. And in the case of like maybe like a choir or an orchestra, it's not even like you're not even writing music together, but you're kind of just like trying to find that resonance and being able to move together and breathe together. But it is a really different thing, I think, like collaborating right now, where there's more sort of this back and forth of, it's like I'll take the thing and like let me like try to like see what sparks, and then I'll like send it back. And it's been, for me personally, it's been fun in different ways. Like I find myself like really pleasantly surprised and like learning things in different ways by like hearing how other people approach that type of process, and I don't know, like how has that been for you, especially when you're working on your own music and your own vision? And I would say like, to me, like you have such like a individual kind of like perspective and sound, that's not like it's your own, you have your own sound. And so to invite other people into that process, how do you approach that? Like, do you usually like kind of have things that you want them to do, or do you like ask for exploration and then try, I don't know, like.
Yeah. I generally have an idea of what I want them to do. But I would encourage always that if it makes more sense in your, they'll know their instrument more than me, might write something and have a, good idea of how it will sound. But ultimately, a collaborator, sometimes they'll feel comfortable improvising, sometimes they won't. And
totally.
And if they do, I would encourage, feel free to even I might have wrote it, but I'm not, if you're playing it, you know better, and you can change certain things that fit better in your body on your instrument. I like to encourage that. It feels super awesome. I think that's sort of the best of both worlds, because sometimes like collaboration, especially if I don't know someone and they reach out to me to do something for their project. And I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing at all, but like sometimes I find myself like, if there's no directive and they're just like, do your thing, like, it can be pretty daunting, or I can spiral into self-doubt about like whether or not it's right for the thing or whatnot, like if I have no sort of reference or no, but at the same time, like it's also does feel good if an idea just like kind of pops up, to feel like I have the agency or something, I don't know, to be able to kind of do my thing over something. So I think that seems like a pretty like good and considerate approach to like, engage collaborators with like specific tasks, but also kind of giving them room to giving them permission and to stretch out if they want to, which I guess is exactly what happened with You Don't Know Me and Ryan. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think sometimes people will come to you or me with maybe even, it is helpful to have a reference or some sort of idea of what they want. But sometimes people, like you said, will come to you and just say, do whatever. And that's a little bit scary, especially when it feels like the person might not know what you do personally, or what your skill set is. So you feel kind of intimidated.
Either that, or they feel like they've projected in their minds like what you are, and they have like, you know what I mean, and they actually do have an idea of like, I don't really know how to describe that, but I feel like sometimes when people like ask me to just like give me no direction whatsoever and ask me to do my thing, they actually do have like an idea of, even if it's not like specific notes or rhythms or whatever, they might have like some concept of what they want me to do, but it's like their idea of what I am. You know what I mean?
And which that's really hard.
Can be tough sometimes, but also can yield good results. But it's kind of always a crapshoot in those situations. I'm like, I'll just like make something, send it off, and maybe they'll like it, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that I've had that happen to me quite a bit. And it's no one's fault really. It's it's interesting.
Totally. When you can't be in the same room together where like, you know, like if I like started coming up with someone like something and someone's like, oh, like maybe like do that. It's so much easier sometimes to kind of, that's something that I do miss about like working in person with someone is like, if I am like in the process of like making a part for something like, and I'm able to sort of generate it from my own head rather than having them tell me to execute something, but just be like in real time directed, you know what I mean? Like that's something that's like,
like this or like
this,
like,
or this.
Yeah.
You avoid all the wrong turns and whatnot.
Yeah. I've had it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a tough subject.
I don't want to like, we're not going to name any names.
It's like, I'm not, and I don't think this is a negative thing. Actually, I think it's like we all do stuff like this. You know, we hurt. It's easy to get typecast, or you know, a lot of what's on the internet is actually not what you actually can do, or your skill. It doesn't showcase your skill set. And I think, like for me, it's important in singing that I've tried to be flexible with my instrument. I don't necessarily I feel like I can sing different genre, and I think we're getting rid of this whole genre thing, right? Every artist is now genre defying and you know, genre bending, and I think this is just, we're all you know, melting pot and everything and blah blah blah. We're all hopefully going that way, but with that, I don't think singing, I like to try to let myself not to be defined vocally too, and so I think there's an impression I might sing a certain way, and somebody will, you know, have me, but I hear something else, and
Yeah, I think I can imagine that with singing, there's like like, you know, with anyone that feels like they have their own language with their instrument, I think like there's a sense of identity that you want to like keep honest, and it maybe even like feels weird to like execute something that is outside of it. And I can only imagine that with voice, that can be even more potent, like sort of like if, you know, feeling kind of potentially dishonest, like just like doing a different idiom like for the sake of another project. But that's something that we all do have to do from time to time, I guess. Yeah,
totally. Yeah,
I'm just thinking about like sort of like the one thing that I will say for anyone who's listening, about like who are, you know, I don't want to seem like negative about like any of this, and also with the thing where that I was talking about, like where like working on something a little bit blind with like no direction, and then like setting it off and maybe it's not right. Like I'm just thinking about like sort of like it's not a graveyard of ideas that like don't get used. It's more like usually in those, well, it depends on how the thing is set up, but if you are allowed to sort of hold on to the ideas that don't get used, then they're just ideas that you have for the future, you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but
You did.
One thing that I was looking through your past works and everything, and you've done so much. Like, I feel like you've done a lot of sort of interdisciplinary collaboration, like everything from, like, I saw that you did music for an art installation for a ceramicist recently at the Seattle art museum, and also I know we've talked about like how you've done like a piece for opera and dance. Like, what is that like, sort of trying to like contribute to something that's outside of just music, and it's more sort of like, not only someone else's vision, but someone else's vision, like, outside of that, and that maybe that they don't speak the same language of music. So like, I don't know, like, just like how, what is that like, kind of trying to translate that,
Yeah, I want to say that it's kind of, it all feels the same, with just, yeah, because I think even talking musically, just if you guys might bring references of dance or film, or when you're trying to make a certain sound, because I think different musicians have a different way of visualizing things in their mind, or
totally,
they complement each other, so that you could be inspired by things that can help somebody else. Oh, I know what sound you're talking about. With the collaborations I've done with mostly dance and theater have been so rewarding, and just because the two need each other. Well, they're not need, but such a beautiful pairing, and I think that's another thing where it's necessary to be in the space. And it's usually somebody will send me a video of what they're doing, and I have to write something for that, and then we do kind of a collaboration within that, kind of tweaking, and this has been when we've been able to do like live performance, like I've sung solo, just singing with dance. There's also been times where I've pre-composed something and they've danced to it, but it's been more of the opposite. So it felt more like just the same thing with theater, just knowing the cues and learning more about it. I imagine film being the same, and it's often really rewarding, and I learn a lot from it. It's been I've been so consumed now with just mostly music collaboration and background vocals that it's actually been a minute since I've done any kind of theater work. That was mostly when I was living in Seattle. And that city is super invested in the performing arts. I feel like most of the young people there are this or that. It's just such a creative place.
Creative space.
Yeah, it's amazing. And a lot of dance. Yeah. And that's probably why it's just the community there in Seattle. That's how I incidentally got that kind of work.
And do you ever feel like those experiences have bled into your solo practice at all? Like, do you, like you were saying earlier, like you can draw, musicians draw inspiration from all kinds of other things. Like, when you're making your own music, do you ever visualize dance in your head, or like, I don't know, like, or see a piece of dance and I don't respond to it for your own stuff? Or
I wish I did, but I will say that it has taught me to be, I think, more playful, allow more space. Yeah, I think working with dancers have maybe taught me more about movement. If that, and stillness, and how
pacing.
Yeah. Right, because
that's something I need to work on. I feel like I can't make anything longer than 4 minutes.
Right.
And like I like see other people like who can like milk like one idea for like 10 minutes. I'm just like, I don't know how to do
Yeah, amazing, right? Yeah, me too. I think a lot of my work is like super dense, and sometimes I scale back but yeah, I think in my music I'm mostly concerned with I don't like to intellectualize anything that I'm doing. I think there is this thing with I don't consider myself an artist. I think I'm mostly I was just a musician. And I'm not trying to downplay anything that I've done then, but I think the way I think about music, it is instinctual. I usually don't bring concept in the room. There's sometimes where I can put a concept after I do a work or kind of think back on something and where I'm at in life, but I don't. Yeah, I have a hard time connecting those, and I think that's fine. I hope.
I'm very much the same way, so
yeah,
I feel you on that, and I think there's like an expectation or just the way that the world works in terms of like wanting to, I don't know, like being able to I'm like it's a challenge to talk about my own work or like ascribe like kind of because comes from such an instinctual place, and sometimes I have found that like in trying to like figure out like what is this about, like after the fact I've like maybe even learned some things about myself that I didn't realize was happening while I was like in the throes of making it, you know. But yeah, I'm definitely the same way. I'm very kind of I like to just like kind of plant the seed and then see how it grows, like and like be like, no, not this, not this, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Of like create in that way. And it has been So
yeah,
I feel you.
Yeah, and I think there's like some catalysts or just like I could be, I think I'm mostly inspired by poetry or more literature than visual elements, but I think I take that in, and I think that's probably, I can get energy from that, but I'm not, when I'm writing the music, I think I'm more technical in thinking in execution. But a subconscious technical, I'm just free, you know what I mean? I don't know. It is really hard to talk about because I think we want a story sometimes to express a work, but I think it's totally fine to come from a place of just gut instinct and But
totally. And for the record, I would say that at least the way I think of it in my head, it's like you're totally an artist, and not like being a gut artist doesn't make you not an artist.
Yeah.
But,
I guess.
But I know what you mean by like it's like it can feel like a.
Well, I think that's just me thinking when people ask me about my work, I'm like, I don't know, So that's why I don't know, I just made it.
Yeah. It's like, what was the inspiration behind this? And
I'm like, I don't know.
Not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, if I could afford health insurance, I could get a therapist, and maybe I could figure out what that piece was about. But I couldn't tell you. I think that it is more fun to execute something, and then once I'm finished, it's like someone else can interpret the way they want.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's like, I don't know. I like it's really important to me, like the idea of play in like the creating, and sort of being open to that sort of murky subconscious zone of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this isn't to say I actually have had pieces where I've had a concept, and like, or a prompt, like you commissioned to do to a certain thing, and which has been super awesome. And at some point, like getting inspiration for something, I'm thinking about how I met Michael Kaufman is how as he was doing those commissions for Indiana about the
That's
waterways.
right. I did one of those too. Yeah. That was fun. Yeah.
That was awesome. And I did the White River, and it's like, okay, writing a piece about the White River in Indiana, and then we had like a site, right, that we could visit, and so I did these like field recordings and
it's a gorgeous piece, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you. I transcribed these crickets, and I was like, all right, what do I do now? And I just ended up learning a lot about that area, recording the space, getting all that, biophony, learning everything. And it's sort of wild, the thing I ended up coming up with. I think just like where I was in the beginning, I don't know how I got to the end, but it was a lot of work and consideration for the space, and really I wanted to create a landscape or an actual picture of that space. I wanted to invoke the river as much as I can. And so that was a literal, image that I was thinking of to create that.
I think that's something that, like, it's different when the concept is something that comes from something outside yourself, almost as an assignment, like, because I do enjoy creating in that way as well. And in a weird way, it's like the collaboration between like a commissioner and like an artist is something that people don't really talk about often, but it can be very important and like open up different pathways creaty
and like push you to do things that you didn't think you could do or would normally do. I think like my most exciting pieces were commissioned, and my other work is more emotional. But still in those works, that the commission works that might stem from a concept, I still think the process is still the same in creating it. Still generally what I'm hearing in my head.
Rather than like, and this is not a knock at all, but like rather than kind of like, there's a way of making, like, you could be like, oh, like Fibonacci sequence, and like this is like how I'm constructing this melody. It's more just like kind of
I wish I did more stuff like that.
Do you though?
I don't know, why not? It'd make it easier to get it done. Something, that is like it's a skill. So it's definitely not a knock at that. And I think I do still use stuff like that because when editing things, I am thinking technically, and I am inspired by certain things like that. So
for sure.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of like making music to picture this past year, and that's been completely new for me. And that's also, I feel, a similar way in terms of like, that's been a really interesting way of collaborating too. Thinking more like very like emotion specifically, that has been a challenge that has been fun to kind of dig into, because that's something I also, I don't know, it's cool when I hear other people be like, oh, like I made this song because like I wanted to like make a song that kind of express this specific emotion or something like that. I've never come at it that way, but with picture, that's like pretty important to like kind of nail down like
totally
the emotions that's happening on the screen, and that's that's been a new challenge for me. So
yeah. That's I think that was my feeling towards dance. It's just kind of kicking my butt. It's hard at the start. It's just like, yeah.
One sort of project that I was curious to pick your brain about, like what the collaboration process is like, is so in 2019 I got to see you and D'Antoni perform in Dallas, where I live, and I thought it was amazing, and I know you did a residency prior to that, right? Liquid music thing, procession.
Oh yeah. We did a performance.
You did a whole thing?
Yeah.
A performance, and like got to like really dedicate some time and space to like
to that
work
collaboration,
that out. Like, and it was cool to hear like also like some songs that I knew but like completely reinvented, really opened up in different ways, and I was just curious like what that process was like between the two of you. It was such like a unique, I don't know, it was a really unique show, I thought. It was cool.
Yeah, I loved that whole setup. And as you know, D'Antoni can do so much. And with just, it was so freeing, first of all. And I think
if it felt that way to witness, you know what I mean? Like, especially because I'd seen you do your show so many times, and then kind of like it, like almost like. Anyway, I'll let you talk about it.
I think so. There's been times where I've had to perform solo, which I don't think is my ideal situation. I feel most comfortable behind the scenes, and especially since I think wanting to be a composer first, or the performative aspect of it, when doing solo, you just have to do it because of financial reasons and whatnot. Sure. And for that music, that's like, I think it's more soundscapey. There's this worry of being entertainment for an audience, and a hierarchy of being on stage that's intimidating. But I had to, because it's a little bit complicated. My solo show was a little bit complicated, and what I wanted to do with it. That I have all this gear up there, and I can't really communicate to the audience, which I would love to do. But with my music, I would prefer to have a band, or to be collaborating with people on stage, because I'm not necessarily trying to communicate with this kind of digital interface that's in front of me, right? So when D'Antoni and I did that show that you saw, opening up for Michelle, right?
Yep. Man. Michelle and the cello.
That was so cool.
Oh, it was cool. It's a great show.
Man. Also opening up for Michelle. Okay. Let's see. I don't know if the audience, you probably saw the interview with D'Antoni, so we kind of know who he is, right? And so we had mostly, I had my techno self version of my vocal instrument, right? Because I have a couple of, I'm using vocal pedals and whatnot, and have myself set through like a vocoder with my keys, and he's doing kind of like the same thing, percussion, and he's able to use samples, and the sample material is me. A lot of it's my voice, or a lot of the times in my work I'm actually sampling like a chamber piece of mine. I don't sample anything that is not from me, but I sample recycle a lot of stuff from the past. So
Yeah.
if there's not, because oftentimes there'll be a piece that's performed and I'm never going to hear it again. It's commissioned by somebody. It's a huge affair. I hear it once. I get an archival recording, and that's kind of it. So yeah, it was just super freeing because I think D'Antoni kind of knows my sound and he knows what I'm trying to go for. And a lot of it was improvisational. So we'd have like these the songs, but we would go free every now and then. And so I don't know. I'm kind of babbling, but
no, I could totally feel that. And like, I feel like you both have your own languages, but have a deep understanding of one another's in such a way that like kind of it really, really worked. And you could tell, especially in those like more improvisational moments, it just felt so natural and so fun. And also I think like, with like the laptop being the folk instrument of today, I think a lot of people make electronic music in a way that's very not freeing, and not kind of difficult to kind of improvise within that kind of framework. And it was really refreshing to see the two of you just kind of like deep in it and like being able to kind of,
because we were both able to use our instruments, but all at the same time, trigger certain things, and it still was acoustic in nature. I hope, like
it felt
wall of
there was like intimate energy on stage in terms of like just the interaction and just, I don't know, there's like the palpable feeling of like, from the audience perspective too, where it's like you really don't know what's going to happen next,
Yeah. And we didn't either. Yeah.
And that can be super valuable, especially on tour when you do a show every night, and being able to find new space every show is cool too. Yeah. Well, I think we're pretty much, that's like probably going overtime.
And it's kind of like,
I was planning on like asking you about like how you've been doing in COVID and stuff like at the end, but that came up earlier.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
But
the sun's shining today.
How have you been though? In general, sounds like you've been good and busy.
Yeah, I've been good, and I've been busy, and that's, I'm super grateful for that. And I'm working on finishing my solo record, and we're allotted all this free time, so why not? And but working on lyrics is hard for me. So that's kind of like,
I remember talking about this with you before. Is that something that you've like been working on with other people, or something that you're
I've done
doing
it
yourself?
Yeah, I've done it in the past for myself, but I think I've always been more inspired to set music, or set music to a poem. So because I think it's not necessarily my skill set, and so I'm not trying to stress myself out. However, I would like the challenge, and I would like to be honest in my music and try to create something myself. So
well, I cannot wait to hear it.
Thanks. Yeah,
I'm very, very excited for that.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining me and joining us for this podcast series.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, it's probably not going to be for a while, but hopefully we can all get together and make music or even just hang out.
Yeah.
Don't know when
We
that'll
will
be.
at some point. We will.
At some point.
Yeah.
I've been like, I've there's like this fear that's been building up in me that like the longer this goes on for, the less I'm gonna like remember how to interact with other human beings.
Oh no.
Like in person, you know, like I just like I don't even know what that feels like anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Especially like a group of people, like
I think you'll be fine. I think because we'll all be a little bit like
Rusty.
that, and yeah, it'll be okay. Everything will be okay. And I, in some way, I think maybe we are all gonna be more connected because we maybe have taken things for granted, and hopefully we, we'll just be so relieved to be away from screens and. Because, and we know that because screens have greatly affected everything and music and so
it's true. It's a wild world.
Yeah.
It was great to see you and talk for a bit and thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah.